What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Sacred Giggle podcast. As always, this is your host, Ashish, aka Shishi, aka Rizamed's long-lost Hindu cousin. My guest on the show today is none other than Jarel Hill. He also goes by Fuse as his artist name, and he's part of an amazing electronic R&B funk pop duo called Tropic, along with his talented collaborator and singer, Joby. Jarel is a super inspiring guy. He has been making music for a long time, and he brings a level of dedication and discipline and structure to his creative life that is truly inspiring. He really treats it like a professional athlete, like he's going into the studio every day to create something beautiful and to just master and hone his craft. And as you'll hear in the podcast, that approach to your creativity comes with its own rewards and is its own reward, the process in and of itself, which is how Jarel looks at it. So for anyone who's out there who's a musician, a producer, if you've ever been curious about the music industry in terms of the sync licensing world, what it's like to make beats, what it's like to make music, non-traditional ways of making money as a musician, we get into all of that in a good amount of detail here. So sit back, relax, and enjoy this podcast with Jarel Hill. Dude, I'm so stoked to have you on the show, man. I'm really excited for this conversation. And yeah, man, I mean, this show, like I've mentioned to you offline before, is really about helping people to find more of a sense of belonging in themselves and just be a little bit more emotionally self-sufficient and find that place of self-love and authenticity. And so I've had a lot of healers on the show, like people that are in the self-development space, but it's always really nice to talk to artists and producers as well, because I feel like, and let me know if you agree, but I feel like producers and artists, whether musical or whatever type of art that you're making, in order to be a good artist, you kind of have to embody those principles of trusting yourself and trusting your unique vision, and, you know, sometimes going against a crowd that, you know, a lot of coaches and healers kind of talk about. I think like we have to do that just to be effective at our jobs. You know, that's something I really respect about you. Like, I want to get into all the different ventures that you are doing right now while still doing your music as well, and kind of see where your head's at with all of that. But just to start, maybe we can just take it way, way, way back to, you know, early days. Like, where did this love for music originate for you? And where was the first glint that, oh, this is maybe something that I could do or try my hand at?
I've always loved music. I grew up playing piano, and there were times where I liked that and times where I didn't. I was kind of forced along that timeline at some points, and then I was into it at others. And so I grew up with that, and my parents would always play jazz music around the house. So that was kind of my foundation. Jazz and R&B were my foundations. And then when I got to high school, I started getting really heavy into electronic music, like Daft Punk and Armin van Buuren. And at the same time, I was getting into more hip hop. So Kanye West, and I can't think of any others off the top, but Kanye West was like the main one for me. Like College Dropout was everything for me.
Such a good album.
Yeah, it's my favorite album of all time.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I was about to say it's definitely my favorite Kanye album, which I think a lot of people would say like 808s and Heartbreaks and stuff. But that, I mean, there's just like a purity to that album, like a purity of intention and like an innocence that I miss the old Kanye.
Same, bro. I think before I even connected with the lyrics, I think I felt that passion in that album. And I think, you know, there's just so much, like you're saying, intention and passion in that album that I didn't even have to really cue into the lyrics to first resonate with it. And then later, like in college, it almost resonated again with me lyrically, especially when I started to want to go into music. But anyway, so in high school, I started making mixes, like these electronic mixes. I would do like an hour-long mix, and I would just send it to friends, and they would like it, but that was the end of that. And I kept doing it in college. And I think for me, I'd always been interested in music, but I never had any confidence at all to pursue it or even think about it. I wasn't really even thinking about it. I was just trying to, throughout high school and most of college, I was just trying to get good grades and work my way up that like school ladder.
Just to touch on that really quick, what do you think? I'm always so curious about this because, there's some people that are just like, I knew that this is what I was going to do. And I was just like, knew I was going to make it and stuff. What do you think was stopping you in those early years, like from having that confidence in the path?
Yeah, I don't know. The thoughts just never really came into my head. Like I didn't really have people in my maybe immediate network that I knew that were artists that were doing it. I didn't really have any examples, I feel, to look up to and people that were doing that sort of thing. And so I just kind of kept my head down and, try to get the best grades possible. And at the same time, tried to hang out with friends and talk to girls. And those were like the three missions for most of my adolescent life, I would say. Like I really wasn't ambitious in those early days. I just didn't know. Yeah, it was almost just being naive to that I could do anything that I wanted to. And so for me, the moment where that started to change for me first was I studied abroad in Australia and I kept doing my mixes the whole time. And so that was my junior year. It was a good time because I was thinking about what I'm going to do after senior year. It was kind of getting to that time. And at that time, I was majoring in psychology and I was thinking about maybe being a psychologist or something because I love people. And that's never changed. And so junior year of college, I studied abroad in Australia and I started playing these electronic mixes I made a bunch of Australian friends because I got put in the Australian dorm. I was the only American to be put in the Australian dorm, which was such a beautiful thing for me. I became the go-to person for both like the American people that were trying to meet Australian people and the Australian people that were trying to meet us Americans. And I became like the middleman between those two worlds, which it turned me into this big partier kind of for a little bit because I was doing everything. And everyone was always like, what are these people up to? And what are these people up to? And so I wasn't like a promoter or anything, but I felt kind of in the world. And I was also sharing these mixes with friends and they really liked it. And at some point I found like all my new Australian friends blaring this mix that I sent and just raging. and I think that was like legitimately the first moment where I was like, oh, people like this. Like this is awesome. And I loved that feeling that I could give them like this kind of release, from whatever it was.
Right. And these were DJ mixes.
DJ mixes. Yeah. I had this Mixmeister program. And so that was the first thing because I was doing those very infrequently, like once every 2 months or something. And so while I was in Australia, I think I made like 3 or something. I just started really putting time into it because, people liked it and I got that feedback. And then once I got back from Australia, I was just like, there were DJs at my school and I just didn't think they were that good. And I was like, I can be a good DJ. Like I can be the best DJ at my school. And so that became my mission. And then just to like speed it up even more is once I decided that I wanted to be, that just kind of got in my head where I was like, I kind of want to be a DJ. I think that would be a really fun profession. And that's what kind of started me on the production path was that all the DJs that I knew that were doing it at the highest level were music producers. They were making their own songs. And so that's kind of where I was like, I have to do that if I want to be a DJ. That's where it all started for me. And then I think the confidence came from, I honestly read so many, I just got into self-help books. And as cheesy as that is, like
it's not cheesy on this podcast, man. this is the audience for this conversation.
That's true. That's true.
All the self-help is welcome.
I should have known my audience. Yeah, you're right. So I read so many, and they're, at a certain point, a lot of them are saying around the same things, but I needed to hear every word of it over and over and over again, just like believe in yourself, work consistently at something, set goals. I just didn't, I had no reference point for any of that. And so once I started just inhaling that content, like I would buy like 3 self-help books a month and just really going in on that. And so right after college, I went to this music school called Icon Collective. And so I was reading these self-help books and I was going to school while working. So that was a really tough time, honestly, because I would work all day and then I would drive an hour to this school and then I would go to school for 3 hours and then stay as long as I could after and then come back and then do it all over again. And it was just like that for a year. And that was really the time where I think I developed the hunger, the confidence, and also just work ethic because I was working like just all day, every day. In that entire year, I didn't go out once. And it was a good year for creating good habits. And I don't know if I answered your question, but
yeah. Well, I mean, I think we're just going up the timeline. And I think what you said about developing that work ethic and developing those habits, I want to kind of like double down on that because we were having a conversation earlier this week and you said something that's really stuck with me like over the last couple of days since we had that conversation, which was that, you worked so many years at a job that you didn't like, that wasn't, your highest calling or excitement. And every day, even though you didn't like the job, like you showed up at 8 a.m. or 9 a.m. or whatever it is, and you were there until 6 p.m. And now you said, now that I'm doing music full time, I can't stomach to not bring that same level of discipline to something that I actually love. That really stuck with me because, to be honest, it kind of triggered me a little because I don't have that discipline in terms of like waking up at the same time every day and like being at my desk at a certain time. Like I'm definitely not good with that. I think like discipline is something I'm still kind of trying to build a little bit, to be honest. Like I try to have like a certain amount of like output, but yeah, I think that that's something that I really admire in you as a producer, like just the amount of reps that you've put in. And it's interesting that you started making music, what it sounds like almost more as like a means to an end, like because you were like, oh, if I want to be a big DJ, then I have to make music. And I'm curious, like maybe it was during Icon, maybe it sounds like, when did that transition happen where you're like, oh, actually, like I love the process of producing. And, because we'll get into Tropic, your group that you have with your friend Joby, where you're not really DJing at all. Like you're producing. And then when you guys perform live, like you're on a drum pad and stuff. Yeah. When did that transition sort of like happen for you from DJ to producer as the priority?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think it did happen at some point during Icon, but I also think that I was still trying to, I think my goal for a while was to become a big DJ touring artist. And so right after Icon, I moved to San Diego and that dream was kind of actualized. Like I was playing at these clubs a lot, like pretty much every other weekend. And it was really fun. So actually now that I think about it, I think that it was in San Diego after I graduated Icon, after I moved, that I think I like making music as much as, or maybe even more than DJing, because I started to DJ at these clubs a lot and it just wasn't as fulfilling to me as I thought it was going to be. I don't particularly know why. I mean, I think the places that I was DJing at were a lot of clubs, and sometimes I just don't really like the vibe of clubs. And so I would kind of go and then kind of rush out. I felt like I didn't, like I loved being on stage. I still do. I love being on stage. I love performing. I love DJing. But all the other stuff I can kind of do without. And so I kind of felt like a bit of an oddball.
Okay, so there's a lot to unpack there because I feel very similarly. Like I've had like kind of a similar journey where, well, except I would say that I started producing music first because like I wanted to make my own songs, but I was like too shy and introverted to like make any friends to make music with. So I was like, I just need to know how to do this all by myself alone in my room by myself. So I like got GarageBand, but didn't know what I was doing. But then, yeah, like I started DJing and I realized like, oh, this is so fun. Like I feel like the man up here, like the excitement, the rush of it. But then, yeah, as I got older, and also like, you know, stopped having as much of an interest in like going out and partying and drinking and stuff, but just started getting much more interested in my health and like, you know, getting enough sleep and all that stuff. I also felt the same way. And the like place that I'm at from that realization is that I still like definitely want to be an artist as a career, but I don't want it to be dependent on just needing to tour. And I know that we've talked about this a lot. Like, I want to be able to have enough different income streams. And I want the people that are coming to my shows to be coming for like my music that I've made, like not just because I'm like a DJ that can like go party to, that are coming from my music and also coming because like the show is an experience that's like an extension of everything that I stand for, like all my values. And that's where like we talked about like how like I would love to do like a show, but like have like a sound healing or like lead people or even give like a talk about a topic like at a show, like just stuff that is not considered like things that DJs do right now.
Yeah, super unique.
Yeah. And like, and that's if I can tour that way and have it be my own extension of my own values, then like I would love to have it. But I also kind of let go of that dream. And I think it's interesting because, and this is where I'm curious where you're at with this. I think a lot of people who maybe get delusioned, they just immediately decide like, oh, I guess like the artist life is not for me. And so maybe they do something else, or maybe they go become like more of a behind the scenes type of producer. Like I know that you do a lot of work with just like creating beats and selling them online and stuff as well, and with sync licensing companies. But I really don't think that it needs to be that binary. Like I still think it's possible to create, because like having an artist career, I think really just depends on having an audience that cares and like that you can monetize in some way and that is willing to support you. And I think that can be done in a lot of ways. So I'm curious for you, like after having that realization, because you have Tropic, right? But like, is that your project Tropic, which is you're in a duo with a really talented singer, Joby, and I'll link to all that stuff in the show notes. But is that like still the main goal? Or is it kind of like, I'm just doing a lot of different things that interest me and I'm going to kind of see what happens? You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's definitely the latter for me right now. I think I've only recently gotten to that point. I would say in the past, like at the end of nearing the end of last year, I think I had an epiphany where there's one other project that I'm trying to get off the ground, which of course you know about. And there was a while where I wasn't pursuing that. And there was some other things that I wasn't pursuing because I was really trying to make the touring artist career happen. And that was, that was my singular focus and my only focus. And I think I just realized that originally, like, I just loved music. It wasn't that I wanted to be a DJ. It wasn't that I wanted to produce music. It was just like this overall love for music. And now I just feel like I'm getting back to that place where I could be happy as long as I'm close to music in some capacity. And I'll always kind of continue to do all the things that I am doing as long as they make sense. But I'm not really putting the same pressure on any one thing anymore.
I think that makes a lot of sense. And I think it's like actually a really important conversation for, anyone out there who's listening, like aspiring artists to just consider for themselves. Because I think there's a difference between the idea of being an artist and the actual day-to-day process of being an artist. And when I say being an artist, I mean like doing it as a career and as a business and like actually growing it and like living that lifestyle. And again, like we said, like it doesn't mean that you just only need to be touring. Like there's a lot of different ways to make it happen. But I think the idea of it is a lot more appealing for people than the process. And I think it's like important for everyone to ask themselves the question, whatever it is that you're doing, whether you're an artist or anything, am I actually like down for the process of this in the long term? Or am I just like more attached to the idea? And I think that just comes down to like, if what you're doing is like draining of you of energy all the time. I was talking to Nick Cherwink about this, who we both know because he used to work at Icon, and he was on the show a few episodes ago. And he was saying like, if you're an artist and you're doing it because of some idea in your head that you're attached to or some validation, but like, it's like killing you every day, like then of course you're going to burn out. But like, if you just genuinely love making music and you're waking up every day and making it, then you're not going to necessarily burn out.
you also have to just consider, which I've been considering a lot lately, is what you're sacrificing for whatever it is that you want. If what you want is to be a touring artist, there's a lot of amazing, awesome experiences and everything that comes with that. But you're sacrificing a lot of control of your time and just not being in one place a whole lot. And it has become pretty important for me to have more control over how my day is going to go and where I'm going to be. And I've kind of chosen to be in New York. I want to be here for most of my days, most of the year. And I don't really want to be traveling around. And I also just know that I love to do shows. I love to DJ. I love to perform. But I do get very nervous before all those things. And just for me personally, I don't really want to do shows like every week or whatever. It's a lot of stress on me, and I would rather my, kind of like you're saying, like my main job or whatever you want to call it will just be here making music, because it's just a peace of mind that I enjoy at this point.
Yeah, totally. I don't know if I feel exactly the same way, but I feel very similarly because like Tim Ferriss, who's a famous self-help author that everyone probably knows.
That was one of my first people that I got really into.
Oh, nice.
Listen to so many of his podcasts.
4-Hour Work Week and all that stuff.
Oh, yeah.
So he is a boss, but there's one thing that I sort of disagree with him on, or at least I guess I would need to talk to him to understand more what he means. But he has this quote that says like, follow your excitement. And, I think for a long time I was like, that makes a lot of sense. That's like how I'm going to live my life. And I still generally agree with where that's coming from. But what I've realized is, I think for me, especially as I get older, like it's more important for me to follow my satisfaction in terms of like long-term, like what is a lifestyle that maybe it's not always like the most exciting every day, but it's like satisfying. It's like fulfilling and satisfying. And it's not that those two things need to be separate, but like for me, I know like DJing is super exciting. I love being in front of a crowd. It's cool. Like it's fun, but sitting down and like committing myself to my craft and like making songs that I know are going to like outlive me and just making this like contribution to like the pantheon of music as an artist is the thing that like fulfills my soul. Like it's like if I really try to like whittle down what I can contribute most to this earth, like as a human, it's like just like creating music, writing things that help people. And DJing is like a fun extension of that. And I'm not saying that DJing can't be that for someone else, because like there are, incredible DJs and you can really heal people with that as well, if you have the going in with that intention. But yeah, I'm similar in the sense of like, I still like want to live that dream of like touring and like, being an artist and like traveling and playing all over the world and stuff. But I just don't want to have to rely on it. That's the key. Like, and so I think
that's key for me too.
Yeah. And that just comes down to like having income streams, it's like thinking about like, how can I be financially rewarded and like build a sustainable life doing things that like fill me with energy and that are like offering value to people. And that's where like, I just think we live in an age where I feel like more artists are going to start waking up to that and understanding that like, being a touring artist in a way is just like another rat race. It's just like another, like, I mean, for some people, like that lifestyle just like fits for them perfectly. Like I was listening to an interview with Diplo yesterday where he was talking about like how he's just like built for that life. And it's like, cool, and it's like, I'm just not, or like Steve Aoki playing like 300 shows a year or whatever.
Yeah. He's a beast. Still throwing cakes too.
Yeah. Like, right. Like granted, they're like, flying on private jets and stuff. But honestly, even if I was doing that, I would be like not down for that.
I'd be wrecked.
So,
yeah.
Yeah. So it's like having that self-awareness and then like the same energy that if you're an artist out there listening, like the same energy inside of you that makes you believe it's possible to make a living from your art, like just apply that same energy to like, it's possible to create whatever life you want, even if it doesn't exist. There's no example of someone doing it yet. I think that's what we're both kind of doing in our own ways.
Absolutely. I'm in the same place where, and I think maybe I'm downplaying it a little bit. Like I do want to DJ out. I do want to tour and perform, I just want more control over it. I don't want to have to be like we were talking about Instagram the other day, and like instead of Instagram using you, like you using Instagram, I want the same relationship with something like that. Whereas if I want to tour for like a month or two, like I can do that and then I can stop and I'm not going to be hungry. You know what I mean? I still have a way to make income. So I can kind of dial in as much as I want to, which is the goal for me right now.
Yeah, so I would love to kind of explore, just for people listening, like who are curious about this, like what are some of those other things that you've been pursuing this year or like in the past couple years, I guess since COVID started, which kind of shook things up for a lot of people. Like what are those things you've been pursuing, both from the perspective of like, you know, creating income and a lifestyle, but also like just things that you enjoy, and where like the overlap between those two?
When the pandemic started, my idea for myself at that time was kind of opposite to what I've been saying. Was I was going to pick back up DJing more and perform more. We had a show that we were lining up across Asia in May, and of course the pandemic, none of that happened. It definitely kind of rocked me in a good way, I think. And so how I adjusted to that was I started working on artists' music. I would take like demos of theirs and finish them, or mix and master, or tutor in production. And I was doing that for a while, and I thought I would really like it, but honestly, I didn't really like it that much. And so during that time, I was looking for something else to make income.
Why do you think that was, that you didn't like it as much as you thought?
Yeah, I think a lot of the stuff I was working on was what I would consider client work. And the difference between client work and like a collaboration, like you and me had, we worked on a song together. And the difference between that is that if I'm doing something for a client, I'm just there to serve them and do whatever they want. And so I'm giving less of my input or expertise, and the song is going to end up in a way that I felt a lot of times unhappy with, because they would ask me to do something and I would just do it, you know, because that's the job, you know. I was trying to do what they wanted, not what I felt was best. And so it just felt unfulfilling a lot of times, and also hard because I think this is just the clientele I was working with. You know, no offense to anyone that I was working. I'm not. If I worked with you, I'm not talking about you.
Definitely not you.
It's definitely not you.
Right.
Just some of the people were just not really professional. Like it was a lot of amateur to like intermediate musicians, and so they didn't know a lot of things. So there's a lot of back and forth, and so I just wanted to get to a place where like I felt like I'd been putting in a lot of time with music. I mean, I've been putting a lot of time with music at that time, and I wanted to work with professionals and just people that knew the craft and knew what they were doing. And so I transitioned into working with sync libraries. So basically, I will create an album of a certain type of music and then sell it to a music library, and they'll pick it up and they'll place it, or they'll have it in their library, and TV commercials and ad companies can come through and purchase that and use it in their projects.
And do you get a cut of, are there like royalties after, or is it just one sale?
Yes. So I get paid 3 different ways. So first, I get it paid up front when I like give them the song. And then once someone purchases a song or songs, I get paid again. And then the third time I get paid is basically any time that it plays on TV. So those are your royalties. Anytime it gets played on TV, I get paid again. And so that's what I've been looking to for long-term income, is setting that up. And so at this point, I think I've signed like 60 songs to different music libraries. And I've just recently started to have that kind of come back around. And now I'm starting to hear my music in TV and commercials and stuff. And that's literally just happened in the past month. And I started signing these songs back in May. So it takes a long time. The business is super delayed. But yeah, I'm just kind of trusting the process with that. Just kind of continuing to put eggs in that basket.
Yeah, that's amazing, man. I think that's so good again for like any musicians out there to hear who are like potentially curious about that process. It's not really something that I've dove into much, but I think like for someone like yourself who is just loves making music, it's like, yeah, you create that process. So what is that process for you specifically? Like, is it like you wake up every day and you're making music for a certain amount of time? Do you look at what's on the libraries and try to like guess like what kind of music you should make, or how does that work?
So right when pandemic started, so I also, to speak a little bit about my like financial situation at that time, I quit my job on March 1st, 2020, not knowing that the pandemic would happen,
Oh
obviously.
my God, yeah. Like a week before. Right.
But since I had planned that, I had money saved up because I had planned to quit, and I had planned to be unemployed or whatever for a while, and so I had money saved up. And so the pandemic kind of offered me a good runway to really focus and hone in. And so during, I think it was like a year and a half period, like my goal was to make a song every day. During the week, I took weekends off, and I did that for a year and a half. And so I think that's where a lot of the music that I've signed has started to come from, because after that year and a half, I was like, what do I do with all this music? You know what I mean? And so I tried to find artists, and I'm not very good at that process. And so I found out that I was better at just putting them all in like an album, like all similar sounding songs in one project. And then I just hit up a bunch of music libraries, and I'm like, hey, I have this album. It's got all the things you need. Let me know what you think. And
That's amazing.
yeah, ended up, there's a few I work with, but there's one I really, really work with. And now they've started to send me briefs. And so, like, I just finished today this one. They sent me, they'll say, like, oh, we're working on like this sexy R&B album. Do you have anything that could work for that? And so this month, me and Joby of Tropic have been working on these like 5 songs for them. And so now it's kind of a give and take. Like, I'll make music, and then once I feel like I have an album's worth of songs, I'll kind of like package them and then try to find a library that suits it. But also this library is now reaching out to me and asking me to hop on their projects.
That's amazing, man. That's personally so cool for me to hear because I'm doing that process right now. I'm writing a song a day since my birthday on March 7th. So like today I finished like it was like song number 24 or whatever. But I'm literally doing every day. Like I'm not taking any days off. And so like
I love that. Congrats too, by the way.
thanks. Thank you, man. Yeah, what I think my plan right now is to try to do it for 100 days. But yeah, like you said, I can already hear like which ones I'm going to finish for my own project. And then the rest, yeah, like I'm a little attached to them. But yeah, hearing your story is super cool because it's like making me think like it's good that that music is still used,
Viable.
like, yeah, it's not like just sitting there doing nothing.
Yeah, of course, when you're making that much music, there's a good portion of it that's just useless, it's pretty bad. And then there's that portion of it, a smaller portion of it that's really good that you keep for yourself for your artist project. But there's this whole middle section that's good but not amazing.
Or just not applicable to your project.
Yeah, it doesn't fit exactly. It doesn't fit your project, doesn't fit anything really. And for me now, it feels good to have a bucket for songs like that, where I'm just like, okay, now I can like make money off of this or hear it in a TV show. Like, and honestly, it's been pretty cool for me. Like the songs that I've done for Sync, I'm not the most proud of them, but it's still been really fun to hear them in places. And
are they hard to like obviously you're at a very high level of skill at production because you've been doing it for so long and like you have that discipline. I'm just thinking like out loud, like are they pretty demanding in terms of what they'll accept? would they just like be like, no, we don't want to buy this because it's like not good enough,
Yeah. I
whatever?
mean, it's definitely competitive. Like I've been rejected way more times than I've been said yes to, and ignored way more times than that.
Because I guess they're not going to buy it unless they feel like it has a good shot of actually being used.
Exactly. Yeah, and if they can, use it, especially the main one that I work with, because they pay up front too, so they're not going to pay. They're losing money if they don't turn it around. And so, yeah, I think they are. It's definitely competitive. For me, it feels a lot like when I used to send all my songs to every single blog. It feels very similar to that process where I send out to maybe 40 or whatever plus blogs, and I would hear back from like one or two or three over a certain amount of time. And so it's, at least for me, I don't know, the good thing about this sync music stuff is that there's not a timeline like there is with artist stuff, where if I don't send it to a blog before it comes out, that's it. You know what I mean? I'm not going to send it to a blog 3 weeks after release. They're going to say like, this isn't new. It's irrelevant, But since everything I'm sending is not even coming out, like I have an album done. It's like 10 futuristic trap sounding songs. And I've sold 2 of these albums to 2 different music libraries, but I'm looking for a home for the third. I've sent it out multiple times and no one's really, I think it's great, but no one's really bid on it. But I just set a reminder every 3 weeks. I send to a few music libraries, and I'm going to do that until it's gone. And I do that for everything that I finish. Is I just keep going until someone's like, "Oh yeah, I love this," and then it's done.
How long does that take you to finish like 10 trap songs?
Honestly, not that long. Once I like know what the vibe is, like once I'm like, "Oh, this is a thing," and I mean, especially since it was like the third futuristic trap album that I did, I had all these templates from the first 2, and so it honestly took me like maybe 2 weeks max. I don't know.
Just from a creative standpoint, like, does it get monotonous ever? Like to make that kind of stuff? Because I've been noticing, even just doing a song a day, I'm like, lately, I'm just like, like I'm just making I'm making a ton of house music, and I'm like it's just another day of 4 on the floor, like same clap, using the same kick, like
Yeah.
So.
I think that's the one thing about consistency. When you're doing something that often, you're gonna find yourself in the same place more times than not. You know what I mean? Like if you made a song every year, they would sound way different because you'd be in a totally different spot. But if you have, you're listening to your favorite like 3 albums right now and just consuming that all, like, and that's going to be the same today and tomorrow and the day after that. And so your inspirations are the same. So your music's going to sound the same. And so it does get monotonous. And then that's when I kind of switch it up. I'll say like, oh, I need to finish this once I finish it, I'm usually pretty like worn out of whatever genre that is, and then I'll immediately not make that the next day. I try to finish the project.
Yeah. Then it's done.
I haven't made that like futuristic trap sound for a long time because I did 3 albums of it and now I'm sick of it.
Right. Yeah, totally. This is getting kind of like producer to producer now, but I'm just curious, like when you say finish it, I mean, it's not like you're not like mixing and mastering it with the same level of, rigor necessarily as if it was like,
I mean, I master everything, but I leave my same master chain on and I don't touch it ever. I don't think I wouldn't recommend that. I don't, but it works for me. And also for the music libraries, they don't want it to be mixed and mastered. And so I mix and master it for myself. And then I have like take off my mastering chain when I send it to them ultimately in the end, because they have their own mixes and masters, because they want everything to kind of sound like it's from the same library. But just in general, I mix and master everything. And yeah, I would almost put like mastering in air quotes.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, it's the classic, like just slap the chain on and then
Yeah, just keep the same, keep that same energy
Right.
from when I first started. Or like, I forgot who set it up. It's actually honestly embarrassing. I think I still use the same mastering chain from Icon days.
That's amazing. I mean, I'm sure it works great. I know it works great actually because I've worked with you on tracks, and yeah, your masters slap. So I'm not surprised you got it from Icon.
Yeah, someone set it up for me, and they told me why it was great, and I believe them. And I mean,
there you go.
Yeah,
man. I mean, maybe that's a good place to end, just on the note about monotony and like staying consistent, because I really think that that's major key, man. Like whatever it is that we're out here trying to do, like, and I'm not necessarily even, it's not like I'm trying to preach this or like speak from, any crazy success that I've had, but it's more just, I'm really tuning into that in my own life. Like for this project, just like showing up every day and realizing that like there are going to be days when it's boring. There's going to be days when it's exciting, but like whatever's that thing that we can find for ourselves that we can enjoy, those boring parts of it. Like that's the thing we got to be doing, and it comes back to that like process, like falling in love with the process over like the romanticized idea in your head about what it means to be an artist or a producer. So yeah, I think I really admire that about you, just like the ability to, just that discipline that you have. And I'm so happy that it's like paying off for you now.
Thanks, man. No, me too, dude.
I feel like I'm stoked about it too.
Like, bro, same. No, I've been doing that. Been doing this sync stuff since May, and just bone dry for a long time. And, everyone was telling me that it takes a long time to, get it into the library, get it to other people. And, you even just think about when you're doing a project, like it takes a while. And once you finish it, it takes a while to get it on a network. So I got all that, in my brain, but it just felt annoying for so long. So
yeah, especially like during COVID when, they're like your whole plan gets thrown upside down. As we had very similar like experiences, because I also quit my job at the end of 2019 or beginning of 2020.
I remember.
And I also was like planning on doing a bunch of shows, and but dude, so good to have you on the show, Jarel. Is there anything else that we didn't touch on that you want the people to know? I'll drop to all your links and stuff in the show notes.
Yeah. Did you want me to talk about my like food project?
Oh, dude, yes. Let's talk about it. Yeah. So tell us about Jarel Eats.
Yeah. So I actually changed it to Eating with New York.
Oh, it was Eats by Jarel, right? And then
it was Eats by Jarel, and now it's Eating with New York. The like tagline is like weekly 101s with New York's finest at New York's finest, and essentially going for meals with people in New York that I personally find inspiring or super creative, and picking a new spot in New York to eat, and then I make a post about the person in the spot. And that's been something that's just given like weirdly, I don't know, I didn't seek out, like this was supposed to be just like a 1-year project, and now I think I'm on like week 90, and it's supposed to be just like 52 like 1 year, and it's just going to be homies. It was going to be a way for me to stay in touch with people, because I knew I was quitting my job and I was going to be working remote back when no one was working remote. And so now everyone's doing it. It's not unique anymore, but it was like unique then. And so I was trying to figure out ways to stay in touch with people. And so that was what I came up with. And now it's become like a tool for a lot of different areas in my life, like networking. I've met, some awesome people, and a few people that have even become like really close friends of mine, which I think has been the best part of it. And also just I'm able to support people and communities, and that's one of the things that I'm most happy about with really anything that I'm doing, but yeah, definitely this project. So yeah, it's been fun.
I love that, man. Yeah, definitely everybody go check out. I'll put it in the show notes. Go check it out. It's a really, really cool project. And it's like the common thread in everything that you're doing that I just respect so much is just the consistency. It's like, I feel like you're really good at like setting saying like, I'm going to do this. And I know you have some other projects that'll be on the horizon soon too, that people can look out for, but just having that consistency and discipline to just carry something through. And I think that's how you grow in things into beautiful things. And yeah, I remember we went to Divya's kitchen like as part of our meal, and that was an awesome conversation. And yeah, man, super proud of you and everything that you're doing. And thanks for coming on the show, dude.
Thanks so much for having me, man. I really appreciate it. I'm super honored to be here, and it's always good to chat with you, man.
Likewise. So I have one final question that I ask all my guests. So it's, don't need to think too hard on it. Just like first thing that pops into your head. What is the thing that makes you feel most free?
Oh, wow. Money. No.
That's amazing. That's an incredible answer.
I'm trying to think of something else, but honestly, that might be it. That sounds so bad.
Such a good answer. No, it's amazing because like a lot of people on the show, they'll have these like deep, like spiritual things, but it's like, that is a great answer. I think everybody would agree with that.
It's like, it's kind of, I feel like it's accurate. I'm trying to think of something else. I really am, but the more money I have, the more free I feel. Like with time, you know, because I think of freedom as like freedom to do what I want when I want. And if I'm not worried about making money, then I can do that.
Yeah, and I think that informs a lot of the decisions you made, like with your career too, in terms of like getting into the licensing game. It's like
it has, yeah.
It's not, you're not trading your time for this thing. It's like you make something and then it like goes off and makes you money, and I think that's the key. Like,
yeah, and I've been trying to, think of like more ways to do that instead of like doing something, getting paid for it once, having to do it 1,000 times over again. I hope that's not the most.
No, dude, that's an incredible answer. That's amazing. Dude, I love you, man. Thanks again for coming on the show, and I'll catch you soon.
Yeah, man. We'll chat soon.
Peace.
Thanks, brother.
Thank you guys so much for tuning into this episode of the Sacred Giggle podcast with Jarel Hill. If you want to find out more about him and everything he's up to, I've linked to all of his stuff in the show notes. And as always, if you're enjoying the show, if you liked this episode, if you are a fan of the podcast, it really means the world if you can hit that subscribe or follow button and leave us a 5-star review so that we can move up in the rankings in the world of podcasts. Thank you guys so much, and I'll see you next week. Peace.